All right, guys, welcome back to the Sex and Bacon podcast. On today's episode, I have with me the lovely guest, Gayle Lynn. Gayle is a relationship coach, and the topic we're going to talk about today, I feel like, is a very, very interesting one and lots of layers to it, because I feel like a lot of relationships and couples struggle with this, and unfortunately not in a healthy way, and it usually probably ends relationships. But for you guys, it didn't. So I'm very, very intrigued to hear more about your situation, hear more about what you went through and how you guys had navigated this uncomfortable, I guess, topic, to be honest.
Yeah. So the topic is, my husband came to me and asked if he could have sex with somebody else. And so when he did, of course, I freaked out. I literally went to my closet and cried because I didn't know what was going on. Because all of a sudden, all these things start coming up within you of self-worth issues and safety and security. I mean, everything starts fleshing out at this moment in time. And so it was one where, he kind of was like backed off a little bit and stuff, because we had a lot of other things going on in our life at that same time. And we decided to look, okay, I looked at myself. He kind of looked, where's he coming from? Why is he coming and desiring this? And there were twofold. So first of all, for me, I was in a space where we had a son who was in addiction, and he was kind of at the height of his addiction. And so I was being mommy bird, right? And not really wanting to engage with sex. And so I think that kind of affected him. But then on the other hand, too, for him, we used to be in a very fundamentalist church. And so for 30 years, we had known each other, and he had never had sex with anybody else. So,
okay, so sorry. So how long have you guys been married?
Well, actually, we're not married now.
Okay.
We decided to separate for different reasons, not because of having sex with other people, just based on really wanting to understand ourselves and our own autonomy, and being able to go on that journey to discover who we were, because we were so enmeshed. But we talk every day. We still, I mean, you wouldn't know we're not married. If we want to go to a club together, we go to a club together. So it's kind of a really unique relationship. And the divorce was kind of more of a statement. I know we kind of got off the subject here, but
that's okay.
It was more of a statement of, we got married out of shame and guilt because we had sex before we were married. And it was just kind of like, you know what? I don't need to have that layer in my life. And that was the part that kind of was the crux for me. It's like, yeah, we can still, to me, it's like, why are we married? We're getting cheaper rates and we do all this stuff, but everything else, we do together. So,
right.
Yeah. So
so you were his first.
So what's that?
Sorry. So you were his first? You were his first sexual partner.
Yeah.
Was he your first sexual partner?
No. I had other guys in high school and even in college, because I met him after my first semester of college, in college. So he was young though. He was homeschooled, and his mom wanted him to become a doctor, and so he ended up graduating at 16. I met him when he was 17.
Oh wow. Okay, so you guys were together for quite a while though, before he came to you and had said this.
Oh yeah, 30 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously 30 years of, monogamy, and then he brings this up. I mean, any person would completely fall apart. I mean, and yeah, like you said, the feelings of unworthiness and, all the insecurities of, what did I do? What am I not doing? And oh my God, does he still love me? Does he still find me attractive? Because I know for myself, and it's not necessarily the feeling of being desired, but just knowing that your partner does desire you and still sees you as the one person that they are sexually attracted to is a huge thing for our security sometimes, right?
Oh,
so
yeah. And not
yeah,
that
so
we're taught that. You know, so really it comes down to a lot of belief systems, you know, and that was what was coming up for me, is like all these belief systems that we had that, you know, it's one man, one wife, you need to stay married forever. If you don't, there's some kind of failure that's going on there, you know, and that's another thing. I'm like, no, people, you're not going to speak failure into my life. That just doesn't work for me. And so, you know, there's a lot of layers that go on that you have to start. It's like an onion. You have to start peeling them away, you know? And so, what I did is I looked, you know, where was I, you know, I could see where maybe he would want to have sex with somebody else. And so I said, well, why don't we amp up our intimacy? And so we did that by doing orgasmic meditation. Do you know what that is?
I don't, but I'd love to hear about it.
Okay, so orgasmic meditation is a technique where the woman keeps her top on, takes her pants off, and the man has his clothes on. Woman lays down with her legs open, and then it's a 15-minute container. So it's actually considered like a meditative type thing. And what he does is he very gently rubs the clit for about 12 minutes. And that just like will start to bring you into knowing your body so well, because you're quieting your mind and you're just feeling, and there's no expectation. Like, it's not something you lead into with sex. It's like really, they want you to use it as a container. And if you want to have sex after that, just walk away for a few minutes and not do it inside the container. And so it can become a very powerful practice in knowing myself and knowing a different level of orgasm. So it was fantastic because it really opened me up just back into my sexuality that had laid dormant for so many years. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Huh, that does sound interesting. It sounds like kind of, is it a little bit like a I guess a tantric type of
you could say
thing?
It's
okay.
Kind of similar to that. And so so we went and we kind of did different things like that. And then some time had passed, basically a year. And he came to me again and he said, you know, I still have this curiosity. So he didn't leave and he didn't go out and cheat on me, which is, you know, the important thing is like we can have these discussions if people would kind of get their egos and the jealousy out of the way and just be able to be present with each other and allow some communication to come forth. You know, that's why people aren't honest and authentic and vulnerable, is because people don't want to feel. Like, if I'm going to be honest to you, you're going to feel something. I felt something when he came to me. And it wasn't fun because then he had to feel something too. But that's where it all starts, is in that beautiful place of honesty. And
totally.
You know, and that's anybody I'm with, that's where I want to be. That's the level I function at. And sometimes it's too real. You know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a hard truth. And I guess, so I mean, he brought it up to you, and then instead of, I guess, him going and doing it and you guys allowing it at that time and you both doing it, it was more of you guys really started kind of diving deeper into your own sexual relationship and bringing about more.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, he brought it up a year later. I feel like I personally would probably struggle with and still thinking like, okay, like, so is he not happy with our sex life, or is it really just a curiosity of what do other women feel like, or what do other women,
he had,
you know,
he had this curiosity. He's like, I've never seen another pussy. I've, you know, never kissed somebody else in you know, in a romantic, passionate way.
Yeah.
And so it was just really a curiosity for somebody who had never really had his childhood to play. You know,
right.
Most people have had that time and had those experiences, and he had never had that. So when he brought it up again, you know, we just had a pretty deep discussion, and I said, well, let's just figure it out. I don't know what to do, but let's figure it out. And so what we chose to do is we actually, there was a workshop, a sacred sexuality workshop that was coming up 2 weeks later. and it was the Kwadoshka, and we decided to take that together. But within that container, you have the opportunity to actually partner up with different people. Like some people go there and they'll be monogamous and they'll stay with their partner and do the exercises. Or you have this opportunity to actually be with somebody else. And so we chose to free dance and have these different partners. So just within this container, he was able to kind of experience other women, not fully unsexually, but just, you know, being naked with somebody else, doing different connection exercises, which, you know, would be more like a tantric type thing, and and begin to learn and say, okay, is this what we really want to do? And after we got done with that first week, we were like, okay, let's just renew. Basically, we did like this whole renewal of our vows, and within it, we just gave each other permission to see other people. And
oh, wow.
And opened our marriage up. Yeah.
Okay. So was this something though prior, when he brought it up the first time, was it something that in your mind you kind of thought to yourself, maybe I also would like to be with other men? Like, did you ever have that interest for yourself of actually going out there and sleeping with other people? Or was it just something like you never would have thought of it if it wasn't for him bringing it up?
You know, I never would have thought of it if he didn't bring it up. I don't think, maybe eventually. I don't know. Good question.
Right? Because it's like, I think that as like, I mean, I guess if my partner brought that up to me, I'd be thinking like, oh, I guess maybe this means like I can too. Like, oh, is this something I do want? Have I felt like there was something missing, or would I like to experience another man's touch or kiss or obvious penetration, right? Like, I feel like it would just bring up such I guess, a natural curiosity in my own mind of like, am I missing this? Do I want to do this as well? Or if it would bring back that, no, I think I could have been content and happy having sex with you for the rest of my life as well, right? Because I feel like it's like if you don't ever think of it and you just think, like you said, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to sleep with this person for the rest of my life. And then somebody brings it up. And aside from being devastated that they want it, I think for myself, I'd be like, oh, could I do this as well?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's just it. You know, after a while, and especially after we did the sacred sexuality, I was like, because I was like, okay, if you want to do this, you know, I don't want him to just go out and you go have sex and I'm going to stay home. It's like, no, if you want to play, I want to play. And that's, you know, and so that's how I felt about it. And that's why we kind of went down the journey together and started, and I was the first one that started dating somebody. It's easier for girls to find guys.
It is. Okay, so full on dating, like you guys were allowed to have other relationships, or it had to stay strictly sexual?
At first we kind of went that strictly sexual, but then it actually ended up growing into, I was seeing somebody that I started to get more emotionally involved with, and we would go out on dates, and he was seeing somebody that we had known. He had already had a friendship with her, so there was a level of attachment there, emotional investment already there. And then there were others where there were other partners we had that it was just a sexual experience.
And you guys still maintained your sexual relationship through all of this?
Oh, it actually made our sexual relationship hotter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So was it something where you guys wanted to know about each other's partners? You didn't want to know?
We did. Not everybody does, but we did. We didn't have a problem sharing it with each other. And, you know, it was so interesting. I found that I have this level of compersion, even more so than he does. And have you heard that term?
No.
Okay. So compersion is when it's kind of like the opposite of jealousy. When you have this vicarious joy that your partner is happy, and if he's having sex with somebody else, you're happy because he's happy or she's happy.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you can actually function from that level, and some people it's just instant automatic, it just doesn't bother them. Other people, they learn it, you know, after you kind of break down the jealousy and why it's there and what's going on, because there's jealousy is like an onion. You got to peel the layers off and find out where it's at so you can get to the core. And that's a journey. And sometimes it doesn't take very much and people can move into that compersion state, and other times some people have a hard time and, you know, they just don't want to see you doing it. Don't tell me, just go do it. So, you know, it comes down to, you have to communicate and really choose, you know, how you guys are going to approach this and what the boundaries are, what you'll talk about, what you don't want to talk about, but still maintaining that authenticity and integrity.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, so I mean, in your guys' situation, not understandable, but I guess it's like I can wrap my head around it a little bit more, of the fact, like you'd said, he had never been with another partner. He had never experienced anybody else. He had never done that part of who he was that, you know, a lot of us do, having sex with multiple people before settling down. So for somebody who does do relationship coaching though, what about the couples then that come to you or the ones where it's, I mean, a guy has had, say, 50 partners. He doesn't settle down until he's in his 30s or, you know, late 20s, and he's been out there. And for the woman as well, for the girl who's been out there, they've all had sex with lots of different people, done crazy things, but then still, let's say 5 years in, 10 years in, they find themselves in the same situation where they want to have sex with other people. I mean, I guess in that situation, it's not like the man or woman is coming to them and saying, listen, I've never gotten to do these things and I want to try it. It's literally, I lived my life doing this. Now I've settled down and I still feel like I need that. I mean, how do you navigate that in a different conversation?
It's so common, you know, because there's some people are just, they're happy. They're happy being the one person and that's it. And other people just really desire that novelty. I mean, that's why we have swingers and open marriages and, you know, that ethical non-monogamy. You know, some people are just programmed that way, where they like to have the different experiences, the novelty, you know, the different mirror reflections, you know, like if you're doing that more of a polyamorous emotional investment type thing, you know, you have that different mirror that's coming on, and even in just one time, you still have that mirror, something that they're showing you. So it just comes down to, you know, what do you desire? What does she, you know, what does he desire? What does she desire? And if you can both get on the same page as to why you're desiring it, because you got to get behind the why, right? Mm-hmm. So why is this? Is there something broken that goes on? Because we don't want to get into going into other relationships if there's something broken. That just doesn't usually go well. But if we can kind of get to the why, then everything clears up and we can communicate and we can go on.
So is that what you help people do mostly, is kind of, I guess, peel back an understanding of why their partner is looking for that, what it is in themselves that they're kind of, I guess, in a sense missing, or what it is that they're looking to fulfill from doing that? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, for me, I just desire for people to really have the relationship they desire, and not what society and family and the church is telling them to have. But really be able to create it between them, and whatever that looks like. If it looks like, you know, ethical non-monogamy, and you see somebody twice a year, just for novelty, just for fun. If it looks like, let's go down and hang out at the swinger bar every weekend,
right?
You know, and that's what feeds both of you. That's what's important. It's important that it's, you know, feeding both of you. And one isn't totally compromising who they are and, you know, kind of getting away from their autonomy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So social stigma is a huge thing on all topics that have to do with sex and all lifestyles. Yeah. So for you guys, being together for 30 years in the community that you lived and obviously having children, was that a conversation that was something that you guys worried about, that if when the community finds out, or your son or your children, is how to explain this to other people so that they weren't judging you for it? Or was it kind of like you guys just didn't care, nobody's opinions or thoughts mattered regardless?
Well, you have to get to that point because some people are just going to believe what they're going to believe. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on who the person is or who's bringing up the judgment. Like when my family found out, they were angry and blamed Dave. They did.
Right. Yeah.
Because he's the one that brought it up. So he must be at fault.
Yeah.
For our children, we actually shared with them everything that was going on because they were in high school and kind of college age, a mix. And we wanted them to know what was going on in our lives, because if this is something, by example, they can see us navigate, then they have a broader view of life and how they might want to navigate their lives. Whether they want monogamy or they want to keep some kind of open relationship going, and
right.
give that choice. And we were at the time doing a show called Exploring the Human Journey, and we actually at one point just went completely open and was interviewed and did a whole thing on us opening our marriage and what happened and everything. So, we decided to share it with the world and not hide it.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So was there any points while you guys had this open relationship and this open marriage, though, that it did complicate things, or that boundaries were crossed, that you guys had to really kind of reevaluate what it was you guys were both doing? Because I know a friend of mine that I'd met through work a long time ago, him and his wife are swingers, but it was always this unwritten rule that, if for whatever reason one of them wasn't capable or able medically, or for whatever reason, to play or to have their stuff on the side, that they respectfully weren't either out there having the same kind of fun because of that. But he said, like, it took years and years of accidental boundaries being crossed before they were able to come to these mutual understandings. So did you guys find that was something that it was as you went on, you realized what wasn't working, what was making one of you uncomfortable, but because you still had this marriage and this love for each other, you guys were able to kind of to navigate that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was messy. I'm not going to tell you it was nice and clean and beautiful and pretty, but that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because
right.
I can help people get through it with not so much messiness. But yeah, there's always a constant redefining of boundaries and seasons. There might be seasons where you kind of pull back because, somebody's ill or something's going on in your life, or you have a family issue or family matters and stuff. So communication is the absolute key in any kind of situation like this. You have to constantly stay in communication. And and that's where people kind of fall, I would say, is, kind of letting things slide or not telling the whole truth, or, things like that. And so if you can stay in that constant communication, it's just going to allow you to try a boundary. If it doesn't work, we need to look at it. Let's reset it. And so, we definitely had those, like, he's like, well, you're kind of seeing him a lot and I kind of feel lonely right now. Do you think maybe you could spend more time with me? And, so things like that. And I get that, I would have felt the same way, and I didn't realize it didn't feel like too much to me, but it did to him, and that's what I needed to respect. And
right.
So I did.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. It's nice that you guys were able to have that open conversation and dialogue about it, and then be able to kind of reevaluate as you went. I am curious, though, did you guys find it hard to find other people that were willing to date you guys or have sex with you, knowing you guys were married and in an open relationship? Because, I mean, not a lot of people are accepting of these type of lifestyles and relationships. So
yeah, it is. It's becoming more and more, believe it or not. But yeah, sometimes it was difficult. And sometimes if you're outside the community, like outside of the poly community, it can get very difficult. In fact, just by trial and error, Dave found, he dated actually a couple of different women. And after they started kind of getting a little bit more attached to him, they wanted him to get a divorce. And,
Right.
And so then you got to kind of start dealing with that. So it's really good to just really being upfront and open, which he was, but they just couldn't quite grasp it. They wanted him to himself, herself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of us naturally, we want to be number one. We want to be the most important woman in your life. We want to be the only woman in your life. And that's the one thing I think. I mean, I have friends that have cheated for years. Ever since I've known them, they've been cheaters and things like this. And it's, I can't say that I judge it. So I've been on the other end of, somebody's always cheated, but I've been the person they've been cheating with. So I've never actually cheated myself, but I see it. And then I've always thought to myself, if it's at the point where you feel like it's acceptable for you to be with other people, but you wouldn't want them to be. And it's like it's because of that selfish ego where it's like, well, we want to be able to do what we're doing, but I would never in a million years allow that or want him to. And I always just think, well, just cut it off, right? Like, just cut off the relationship. But because so many of us are, come from a place of trauma and brokenness and stuff, it's like we want these relationships to fill a certain void in us, but we still are out there doing all of these other unhealthy habits. And, you drag somebody else along on your path that they don't necessarily want to be on. And I mean, that's why I think I love so much that you guys went through this and you can share with people, because I do feel that there is a very healthy way for people to be able to have these conversations, and you should feel that comfortable in your relationship and have that much trust and love in the person that you're with to talk about these things as they come up. But we live in such fear and then, ego driven with all of these things that we just don't know how to get out of our own way. But like you said, it is becoming more popular and more people are, starting to have a better understanding of these different lifestyles. And I think it's beautiful when you can actually hear the healthy side of it and not just, it ruined my marriage, it ruined my relationship.
Well, and think about it. Like if a relationship is its time is up, its time is up. Mm-hmm. It's not going to fix it. This is not something you should go into thinking it's going to fix it. So, sometimes like having the discussions, like I'll do like an open relationship discussion. Let's just get together and discuss it and see where everybody's really at. Is this happening because there's something else going on in the marriage that really needs to be fixed? Do both of you genuinely want to do it? Because if you don't genuinely want to do it, it's not going to go well either. So you really kind of have to peel back a few of those layers to see if it's really going to be something that works. And if you find that it does, and I know plenty of people in the poly community that it works for them, and plenty of open marriages that, they go out sometimes maybe twice a year, once a quarter, or something like that. Maybe it's once a week. It just depends on what works for them.
It's so interesting. Hey, to be honest, even when you said like, okay, the open relationship, I guess it technically in a way would be considered poly. I always thought poly was more of just like, like a throuple kind of situation. It's just you guys, but.
Well, we can break it down a little bit. So, an open relationship typically is going to be something where you're not going to get as emotionally involved. You're going to go have sex and you might, there might be a little bit of connection there, but there's not a relationship that's forming that is like, constant texting and, being there. It's not that. Where in poly, it's going to be more of let's create another relationship. So, like for me, I would kind of be considered a single poly because I don't live with anybody, but I do have different people that I see that I have relationships with.
Okay.
Okay. And you know, we talk on a daily basis. We share life on a daily basis. You know, and then I have some people that I've also been like that third person in an open relationship. So, you know, there's a married couple, and you know, we connect for sex every once in a while, but it's not all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you consider yourself bisexual then?
I am not. I'm not.
Okay.
Usually I'm just seeing the man, and the woman's off
Okay.
seeing another partner.
Okay. Yeah, because I've always thought that for myself. And even when I was younger, I always had couples that would ask if I would want to go home with them and stuff. And I was like, no, but I'll go home with your husband. But for me, because I mean, it's one thing to have a threesome with, say, your friends just for shits and giggles and
Right.
like, you know, whatever. But to do it in a serious way for a couple who is into that, for me, I was always like, I don't know that I could be with the other woman in a serious sexual way. And so it was just something that I always kind of, you know, I stepped away from. But, you know, so that's when you said that, I was curious.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm right there with you. But I do know plenty of people that do, you know, they're, you know, the woman is bi or the man is bi. And so they are seeking that unicorn out that can satisfy both of them.
Right. So do you find though now that would you ever be able to go back to a traditional relationship after what you've experienced and what I guess the lifestyle more so that you lean towards?
You know, that's a good question. Because it's funny. I have lots of people who have tried and failed. You know, it's like, nope, you know, it's just, it keeps coming back up for them. I think if it was really the right situation, I could probably be monogamous. I don't know, though, if I would want to for the rest of my life. So, you know, one of the things that I always counsel people on is when you're dating, if you think there's any chance that you don't want to be completely monogamous, you need to bring it up at that point. Because you get too far into the relationship, and what happens is there was an assumption that monogamy was just the way that it was always going to be. I think I could definitely do it for a period of time, but I haven't been tested to see if I could do it for the rest of my life.
Okay. So how long did you guys have this open relationship for before you actually finally separated or divorced?
We had it for 5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
That's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of time where we, you know, played with other people, and we kind of started, you know, we found we were really enmeshed, big time. I mean, we had businesses together. We, you know, worked at home together. I mean, did everything together. So for us, we started this process of like, okay, finding out who's Gayle and who's Dave without each other. And that's why this part of the journey is fun, is because we are actually having fun finding out who each of us are without the other one around and stuff. And we still share a ton, right? But it's really kind of fun.
Right.
And
yeah, that would be.
Yeah. So it's just our journey and the way we decided. And, you know, that's another thing. I believe that you can uncouple, and if there's a divorce that needs to be happen, I mean, that's something else that I can walk you through because I've been through it.
Right.
And we can do it in a beauty way rather than a I hate you way. There's no right or wrong. You know, it's
right.
What do you guys want? What's going to make both of you happy in life? Let's get to that place.
Right. It's so true. And I mean, it's something a lot of people struggle with, I think, knowing for themselves, is because of the pressures of what it is life is supposed to look like, that you grow up believing it's supposed to look like. I was raised believing it was supposed to be, you know, the white picket fence and, you know, the 2.5 kids and the dog and this and that. But no matter what, I think it's like I just struggled with accepting that that was supposed to be my reality. And so it's like instead, I just was the exact opposite of somebody who, you know, could settle down. But I do find when I am in love, I am very, very loyal, very faithful. However, I'm also more of the type of person who I would say, like, to a partner, like, let's go to a swingers club and have sex in the open together. Let's, you know, bring in maybe one of my friends. What can I do for you? I'm a pleaser, right? And so it's like I find I've always been able to do that, and it's never really bothered me. I've had boyfriends where it's like we've gone to rub and tugs together, and you know, and I've always felt like it was a controlled, healthy jealousy in a fun way.
Yeah.
For both of us, but it was having those conversations. And then I think it's like in my mind, I just told myself that, well, I'm in my 20s. This is just young and silly stuff that you do. But the reality is, it's like, I think, okay, like I'm 40. The longest relationship I've ever had was my marriage of 5 years. And I mean, near the end of it, yeah, I obviously got to the point where I was like not even willing to, you know, go down that road sexually with him anymore. Mm-hmm. But I thought to myself after, like, and now that I've been single, I'm like, if I was actually with somebody that I knew what we had was, there was so much trust and there was so much communication, I do feel that I could do all of these other things in a way where I wouldn't feel like it was a dig on me and what we had.
Yeah.
But like you said, that communication and that fundamental like trust has to be there.
It does.
You know, and I think that's what's lacking in so many relationships.
Yeah. And vulnerability is what leads to trust.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can really open your heart and be vulnerable with the person that you're in front of, that's when that trust is going to be rock solid. You know,
right.
When we want to hide things and we don't want to put it all out there, it's, you know, people know. They know on the inside that something just isn't right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true, right?
Yeah.
I guess I feel like this type of conversation really does spark a lot of curiosity in people's minds, and for people listening who are probably in, you know, traditional monogamous relationships, hearing this and hearing that, you know, there's conversations and people have done it and done it in a healthy way, probably will start to get them kind of thinking, you know, is that's something that they wanted, or maybe they've been thinking about cheating, or maybe they have cheated in the past, and, you know, there is that guilt. And then you start to think, okay, well, maybe this is a conversation I could have with my partner and we could both do these things. What would be the top 2 or 3 things that you would say to people that are curious about it or trying to navigate those uncomfortable conversations? What would be the things that you would tell them in order to get this conversation going in a way that wasn't hurtful and wasn't just automatically going to spark like somebody saying, I want a divorce?
Yeah. So my biggest thing, I think, is to approach it with curiosity instead of this statement of, I want to do this, or, you know, I did this, or, you know, just remain curious. Like, you know, I've been thinking about this. What do you think about this? And start from that type of space.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes it a little bit softer. And I think having somebody like a coach who has experienced it is definitely a good idea. Even, you know, to just kind of break it all down and say, okay, where's everybody at? And do you both authentically want it? And then take your time. You don't have to rush. There's no rush. Even for us, really, it literally took us a year to really kind of process through everything, kind of work through some other areas, you know, like working through our own intimacy. And then it still took, you know, even after we kind of made the decision to finally dive into it, it was probably still maybe a couple of months before we really got into seeing other people. So take your time. There's no rush on this. And if you're communicating, then you're going to be fine. You know,
right. Yeah, that is huge.
And, you know, one of the things that kind of caught me up and that got a little bit messy with the communication is we would talk about it too much. like it felt like almost like a part-time job sometimes, just talking about this whole topic. And so that's one thing, really learning some effective communication skills helps a ton.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I could see that, I guess. I think initially it's like it would feel like a guilt of like, I have to overshare so that you know everything that I was doing, so that you don't think I was doing something that I shouldn't have outside of what we maybe talked about, right? Like
Yeah.
it's that habit to tell you too much so you really know, right? But I could see that might feel a little icky sometimes, knowing more than what I guess a person really, really needs to know.
Well, it can, but then again, you're being very authentic in what you're saying, and sometimes people hold stuff back because they're afraid of what the other person's going to feel, and
Right.
that's a more of a codependent pattern that we need to just kind of watch, that we're not trying to manage the other person's feelings
Right. Okay.
by
Yeah, that
holding
makes
back.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess because I mean, that is the reality that even in friendships, relationships, everything, it's like I don't want to tell them this because I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Exactly.
Right. And then it's no longer about what we're trying to release and what we're trying to work on. It now becomes about the limitations because of worrying about them.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, we just need to just get it out
Yeah.
and not have somebody fix it. We just need it out of us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so
That's
having
so true.
somebody else that can just listen is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing all of, how to navigate this and the uncomfortable. I do have one last question for you though. So obviously starting out when you guys first agreed to be in an open relationship, was there ever a point for either one of you, for somebody who had done it like the first time, where that feeling that you felt knowing, did you ever have that moment of like, I might regret this, or I think I'm going to regret this? Or was it always just like
No,
a higher level of acceptance that we were doing this?
I didn't. I think Dave may have felt that, and I can't speak for him for sure, but if I think back, I think there was, some hesitation, more so on his part, because he's the one that brought it up, and if it goes bad, then, it kind of falls on him. But, you got over it.
Yeah, because it's almost like opening Pandora's box, right? You agree to do it, and then you go to do it, and you think it's a great idea, and then all of a sudden, if one person is like, I think we made a mistake, I don't ever want to do this again, and then on the opposite, you have the other person is like, whoa, 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 no, 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 I do want to keep doing this. Like
And there
it can be
was,
one of those things that's messy.
yeah, there was a little bit of that. There were moments where, oh my gosh, this is a lot, and that's when you kind of slow down.
Yeah.
If you're in good communication and you're really looking out for each other, then it's okay to slow down and
Yeah.
take a look, take 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think respect is a huge thing of that. If you do respect your partner and you do respect the person that you're with, you would respect, I guess, the boundaries or I guess, like you said, going forward, going back, right? Like it won't just be out the gate, this is what we're doing, and too bad if you don't like it now, because you said I could, and so now I'm going to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
fair.
we don't have to stop respecting each other.
No. Yeah, I think that's huge. Like you said, like the communication, the respect, the boundaries, trust and being vulnerable and having those conversations, right? Those are huge things that would probably solve a lot of relationship issues if, we could all wrap our head around those fundamental values for each other, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I do what I do is, and I have no judgment. If somebody wants to stay in monogamy, I'm there with you. What do you want to do? Let's look at your intimacy. Let's look at your erotic blueprint and see, maybe you just need to speak each other's language and you don't know what each other's language is, or, what's your attachment style? Let's dig into some of these things and see, where the breakdown is at, what belief system or abandonment or security, you know, what's going on there. So if they want to stay in monogamy, I'm not pushing, I don't push, you know, open relationship or poly or anything like that. I just know that I've experienced it all and walked it all, still walking it. And so I'm able to you know, guide others through it too.
Yeah. And do you feel though for yourself that now in this place of where you're at with it, that like this is your true authentic self of like, it just feels like this is kind of what you were meant to be doing, the types of relationships you were meant to be having?
For me, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Would you have recognized that before your husband brought that up to you? Was there ever moments in your marriage where you thought that?
I know.
No.
No, I don't think I would. And it's so interesting because I have a roommate, and you know, he's the same way, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have a large community where you guys live? Do you find that there is a larger community than what you were expecting once you really started looking into it?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. You know, and I'm finding more and more, you know. I mean, just down at the lifestyle club that I go to every once in a while, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that just go through there constantly, and they're all different, you know.
Right.
And then there's like different, you know, sacred sexuality tribes, and then there's, you know, there's groups on Facebook that you can see and connect with all kinds of people, like at least in Arizona where I'm at. I'm sure there's one for every state. And yeah, so it's out there more than you think. I think a lot of people are afraid to say it, but they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, I thought like where I'm at here in Canada and stuff like that. I know we have one or two clubs and I've gone to one or two of them before, but I always thought it was a very small community. But I think that's the thing, is sometimes people don't know where to look. Sometimes people are curious, but they have no idea where to even begin to look. And it's not something you go around asking other couples like, hey, do you guys swing? Like, are you guys open to sharing? You know, like that you could ruin some friendship pretty quickly asking somebody that, but
well,
you know,
and these days, you know, we're in online dating world, right? So like you can go on OkCupid and mark that you only want to see non-monogamous people.
Okay.
You know, and there's other dating apps too, and websites and different things like that where you can connect with people all over the country or in your state. Yeah. So it's out there. People just don't know about it.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing, is people probably don't know where to look and then who to have those conversations with as well. So sorry, I know I keep saying one last question, but did you guys find that you lost any friendships, couple friends, or I could see it going the other way where it's like once your couple friends know that this is something you're doing, all of a sudden one of those husbands or the wives might get the idea, oh, well, hey, we should do this too, because, you know. Yeah,
we had some of that happen, especially Dave would be talking with a friend or something like that, and he'd be like, oh. I want to be there.
Yeah.
You know, can I raise my hand?
Right.
You know, and yeah, there are some definitely friends that, especially were in that Christian community that we had, that, you know, we don't hear from anymore. And stuff. And that it's okay. You know, we're always attracting and repelling people in our lives. And that's good. That's a good thing. Some people are afraid that they can't, you know, be everything for everybody, but you can't. So
yeah, no, that's so true, right?
Yeah.
I know. I think we always feel guilty when a friendship ends or something, but it's funny. I could just picture it's like, you know, you're the open couple at like a barbecue, or, you know, and all the friends are there, and all of a sudden the husband or the wife is talking to another couple or to another, you know, male or person of the opposite sex. And then the wife and husband kind of looking over, be like, oh, they better not be trying to pick up my husband, right? Because it's like they would know that you guys are the ones in this open relationship. So it's like that assumption that if you're talking to somebody of the opposite sex, oh, she's totally trying to pick up my husband. He's totally trying to, you know, pick up my wife.
think I ran into that one, but that
No,
would definitely be a possibility. Maybe,
totally. And then
I
it's like
didn't
all of a sudden
hear
nobody
about it,
wants you at
right?
the barbecues, right? Yeah. I could see that. I could be that person standing across the room and be like, oh, what are they talking about? They must be talking about sex because I know that they have an open relationship. So everything must be about sex if they have an open relationship, right? Like we have that thought in our mind, but again, our insecurities and, you know, that ego getting in the way there. But
Yeah.
that's funny. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you guys were able to have this work for you guys and you guys were able to navigate this conversation and do it in a healthy way and that it worked for you. And it's so nice to hear that, you know, even moving forward after you guys separated, that it was still a lifestyle that is something that works for you and works for him as well. And, you know, that you guys were able to do that. I think that's a beautiful thing when people can get to that place of finding something and not worrying and thinking about the judgment and the shame and the guilt and all of these social factors and outside factors and having them be what decides what a relationship and your sexuality has to be like
Exactly.
for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you were able to come and share with us today. And you know what? I'd love to have you on another time and dive deeper into some of the relationship stuff.
I would love to do that. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. And we will talk to you guys later and see you on the next episode.